Clemson Hotline is on the air, a 1-hour talk show giving Clemson fans a power hour of Tiger Sports Talk. Clemson Hotline is presented by y'all.com and brought to you by Amtrak. Clemson Hotline is direct from Tiger Country on the network of radio stations across the great state of South Carolina. And as always, a podcast edition of our show is available for download in iTunes, as well as the opportunity for you to tune in each and every week and watch the program live on the front page of TigerNet.com or ClemsonSportsTalk.com. Glad to have you with us here, Clemson Tiger fans. Looking forward to spending an hour with you talking about your favorite team. As you are well aware, if you followed us throughout the summer, we carried TigerNet Talk throughout the entire year, and now we are back in the fall with Clemson Hotline. So both programs will be running, one on Sunday, one on Wednesday. Looking forward to speaking with you at that time. You can always join us live. We'd love to hear from you. Phone lines are open, 803-450-0086. Let us know what you think about this weekend's matchup against the Auburn Tigers. We've got a whole lot to get to here on the program, and we're going to start. You know, this conference, the Atlantic Coast Conference, gets a pretty bad reputation nationally, but we're going to give you a selection of games that you should tune into this season from the Atlantic Coast Conference, and then we're going to get into more Clemson Sports Talk right here on the Clemson Hotline on the John C. Calhoun Radio Network. Blake Austin of South Carolina Farm Bureau is an insurance agent you can count on to meet all your needs. Home, auto, health, life, you name it, Blake's got you covered, and he can save you on your yearly rates. Call him now for a free quote, 803-259-5008. That's 803-259-5008. Or just go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com and click on the Farm Bureau logo to be connected to Blake. Do like I do and work with the best agent around, and you can tweet that.
Want to hear the sound of hassle-free traveling?
All aboard!
Amtrak takes the hassle out of traveling to over 500 destinations. You can stretch out in a spacious seat, relax in a sleeping car, and enjoy a hot meal in the dining car. And for those who want to kick back and take in the scenery, go right ahead. For everything you get on Amtrak, the one thing you won't get is this. So whether you're going to a family reunion or an away game, make it a whole lot nicer on Amtrak. Book your trip today at Amtrak.com or call 1-800-USA-RAIL.
All aboard!
G-Dog General Dentistry at Oak Grove is located on Highway 1 near the Barnyard Flea Market. Modern, relaxing dentistry with TVs and headphones in every room, nitrous and even oral sedation. Digital diagnostic x-rays for better quality and 85% less radiation exposure. And check out their new Clemson Patient Special. Mention that you heard about G-Dog here on the Clemson Sports Talk programs and receive an extra 5% off all services through football season. If you don't have a regular dentist, go see my dentist, Dr. Rick Jackson at G-Dog. That's General Dentistry at Oak Grove. Do you need land management, habitat improvements with an emphasis on hardwoods? Contact Thomas Forestry. They're conveniently located at 576 Riverland Drive, Suite A in Charleston, South Carolina. Joseph W. Thomas and Thomas Forestry have been maintaining renewable resources since 1977. Call now to discuss your options with Joe. 843-735-3993. That's 843-735-3993.
Clemson Tigers, we coming for you.
Yeah. That's how we do it, baby. It's a tailgate party. Y'all better come on. It's going down.
We about to back it on up in the parking lot. Got the beer on ice and the grill is hot. On your mark, get set, baby, ready or not. We gonna get some Tiger.
Welcome back into the program. I'm your host, Lawton Swan, each week right here on the front page of TigerNet and on the front page of ClemsonSportsTalk.com. Now, if you're sitting there at TigerNet and you say, well, what is ClemsonSportsTalk.com? Well, that's the new website we're fixing to launch. We've been over at ClemsonPodcast.com for a long time, and I'll tell you the story. If you've tuned into the show a good bit, you know exactly how it goes down, but a lot of people would see me, they talk to me about the programs, they say, but you know what, I don't even know how to podcast. I don't even know what a podcast is. How do I take advantage of what you're offering me? And so I realized I needed to rebrand just a little bit, because we're not just a podcast. You don't have to listen to us on an iPad or an iPod. You don't have to You can tune in live, watch the programs. You can also catch us on our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/lswanmedia. We're really trying to give you a multitude of ways to check out the program. But the thing is, I felt like saying podcast didn't describe everything we do. And with Clemson Hotline, we're on a select number of radio stations across the state. We'll get you that list once they are all solidified, kind of waiting on some final loose ends to come together. But I do appreciate you being here and always supporting us. Had an opportunity this past weekend to go to the zoo. And while I was there, somebody noticed me, recognized me. Kent, I believe was his name. He came up and said he enjoyed the show, and I appreciate that. It was definitely a surreal moment, though, because it's not something when I started doing this that I ever expected to happen would be for people to come up to me and say, hey, I appreciate what you're doing. I really thought this would be 2 shows and most of you guys would just go ahead and have me fired. I'll be honest with you. I thought that's the way it was going to go. But many of you like what we do. I appreciate it. And we get tons of calls, tweets, and emails. And we're going to head out to some of your emails momentarily. But we would love to hear from you. What do you think about this upcoming season, this upcoming game? That's what we want to talk about. 803-450-0086. Well, I can tell you this. The Atlantic Coast Conference does get a bad reputation, and rightfully so to some degree. I think when you look at the way the ACC has played in bowl games since the formation of the BCS, only having 2 total wins in recent memory there, and last season Clemson getting annihilated in the Orange Bowl, and then having Virginia Tech stumble and come up short in the other ACC featured bowl game, the Sugar Bowl against Michigan. The Atlantic Coast Conference goes 0-2 last season. The 2 teams that many people thought would, I think, go into their bowl games and handle business fairly well did not do so. Virginia Tech played better than Clemson did, obviously, losing that game late to Michigan. But for the Clemson Tigers, the way that offense was rolling, you saw that momentum shift, that one moment. We always talk about that moment in time that you wish you could go back and grab and change, and it would be, I think for many of you, Andre Ellington going into the end zone. You think that he's about to score. The ball is stripped, returned 99 yards for a touchdown, and Clemson never rebounds. Taj Boyd, who it's well documented. You could see it on the field. He had put on some weight late in the season. He had begun to press a little bit after Clemson had a couple of tough losses. Taj Boyd begins to press in that ball game as well. A couple of turnovers later, you're down big, and the snowball is rolling. And for Clemson fans, that was a disappointing and bitter end to a season and a return to the Orange Bowl, the place where many of you remember so greatly that moment of championship back in January of 1982, January 1, 1982, such a big day and such a memorable day for Clemson fans. And for me, to have us get back to the Orange Bowl had been an event I had hoped for years, being a guy who grew up as, in the mid-'80s, the way Clemson football was rolling at that time. For me, I didn't think it would be such a long hiatus from the Orange Bowl. However, it was. We had our opportunities slip through our grasp in the past, but we got there and then just fell flat on our face. But the Atlantic Coast Conference overall has had a very tough time of it in recent years, and certainly this season begs to be surely to be a big season for this league, as they have an opportunity with a couple of teams like Pittsburgh, like Syracuse coming into the league in the very near future, and you want to go ahead and start establishing yourself because you've got some teams out there, or conferences out there, I should say, like the SEC, like the Big 12, that may have a little bit more of a resurgence than the SEC continuing to power. Will they get to 7 straight national championships? I think that's a huge question for everybody out there. But we start looking in the Atlantic Coast Conference at some key games that I think you will enjoy. And I know we only got about 4 or so more minutes left here in the first segment, but some key games that you should tune into. Week 1, obviously, the 2 ACC-SEC matchups in Atlanta. You start off with NC State and Tennessee, and then on Saturday, you get Clemson and Auburn. Also, opening ACC play is Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech, and I believe that's on the 3rd, which is Labor Day. So you've got 3 key matchups, 3 key games. There's other games around the league, but none jump off the page more than those for me. You also go to Week 2. Not a whole lot of interesting stuff going on, but I'm intrigued a little bit by Virginia at Penn State, mostly because of what went on at Penn State in the offseason. To be honest with you, every other game in the Atlantic Coast Conference, in my mind, is a game that you can miss. I would tune in and try to watch that one if I could get my eyeballs on the screen to see it. Week 3, you've got North Carolina at Louisville. Louisville, a team with a good season. They've got an opportunity, I think, to be a bowl team for North Carolina. They've got a real chance here. Larry Fedora comes in, changes that system completely. Can they get a big win on the road? That would be maybe a spark plug for a team in North Carolina that can't play for the Atlantic Coast Conference Championship. Also, Virginia Tech goes to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, a team, as we mentioned, coming into the league. In Week 4, the focus will be on Tallahassee in this league. It's Clemson. It's Florida State. That's a game to tune into. Week 5, not a whole lot else going on, but NC State, their defensive backs. Amerson is an unbelievable DB for them. They go to Miami, which doesn't pose as a tough venue any longer. I don't think anybody is really scared about playing against the Hurricanes right now in this conference. They're a team that came into the league in 2004, had an intimidation factor about them. They're also on probation. They cannot play for the Atlantic Coast Conference Championship. And so you've got a Miami ball club there that's really trying to get itself back, get its feet back under it. And they haven't even been to the Atlantic Coast Conference Championship game. That is the stat of the decade as far as I'm concerned. We've got about a minute here before we've got to get out to a break, so I'm going to fly through these. The next week, which I believe is Week 6, you've got Clemson and Georgia Tech. Coach Paul Johnson has befuddled the Tigers over and over with that option attack. How does Brent Venables adjust to that, and can Clemson come out of there with a victory? And then finally, another game in Week 6. You've got Florida State at NC State. That's going to be a big one. I am not a big believer in this Florida State team this year. I've seen it and heard it far too often in recent years. They go on the road to Raleigh. You know that environment up there. They like beating Florida State. Ever since they had Coach Amato up there with them, for whatever reason, the Wolfpack have been a bit of a thorn in Florida State's side. We're going to have to go to break. Man, that was a fast first segment. We'll be back. Stick with us here. More Clemson Hotline right around the bend.
This is Coach Dabo Sweeney of the Clemson Tigers, and you're listening to the Clemson Hotline on the John C. Calhoun Radio Network.
Appreciate that, Coach Sweeney, and thank all of you for tuning into the program. And speaking of Coach Sweeney, Coach Leggett, and, of course, Coach Brownell and even Coach Coleman of the women's basketball team, we are really working hard to get more of your Clemson coaches involved with us here in the program. And don't be shocked, please. You don't need to buckle up your seatbelt. You're all right here. Don't be shocked if you hear a lot from some of the Clemson coaches or their coaching staff on the upcoming season of Clemson Hotline and TigerNet Talk. We've really been working this year to get things a little bit more organized here on our end to some degree. I think, sometimes there can be so much to this, and putting a great show together for you, it gets a little bit difficult, but I have really dedicated myself in the off season to getting those coaching staffs on board and getting more people that you want to hear from involved in the program, really working to get some national media members out there as well to get their feeling on the Atlantic Coast Conference and, most importantly, your Clemson Tigers. And I should also make a little side note. It's kind of funny that I went through all of that, and I know I skipped a lot of games that involved Clemson, but I'm assuming that each week, you don't have to tell me in the chat room, I understand, each week, every Clemson game is a game that you want to tune into. I clearly understand that. There's no need to tell me. Hashtag TN Talk. Now, you got to be familiar with hashtags at this point. There have been a lot of there has been a lot of recent programs that put the hashtags in there finally, and I think people are beginning to get the gist of how it works. But basically, in Twitter, if you put a pound sign, and then the term I give you, that will come to us right here on the program. I have a monitor that I dedicate only to Twitter, and that's hashtag TN Talk. And I believe if you're watching the program on Vocal right now or on the front page of TigerNet and ClemsonSportsTalk.com, you'll see right here, just below me in the lower third banner, there is that information for you as well. So that's all the stuff that you need to know, and the ways you can get in touch with us, 803-450-0086. And finally, I guess we'll have to do the back half of the schedule. That just flew by. I could not believe how quick that first segment went, but it came, it went, and now it's time for us to move on a little bit. We left off with Florida State at NC State. That's October the 6th. That's the midpoint in the season. That'll be big because what happens down in Tallahassee, if Clemson wins, I think NC State is a team that has an opportunity to get into E.J. Manuel in between his ears a little bit and start messing with that guy. Manuel has not been, in my mind, he reminds me, and I've said this before, he reminds me of Ja'Cory Harris. We hear about him every season. We know he has this great skill set, but when push comes to shove, when you've got to be in the line of fire, what happens? You need Clint Trickett to bail you out. I mean, that's where Florida State is for me. Now, Florida State fans, you might not like that, but that's okay, because what you have to do is prove it. And in recent years, Clemson has been the team out of the two programs, even though Tallahassee's been a tough venue, don't get me wrong, but Clemson has been the team that has played better in that game more often than not, and let the game slip through their fingers the last time they were down in Tallahassee. Let's not forget all the blown opportunities there the last time Clemson went down. It wasn't like Florida State manhandled the Tigers. Clemson allowed themselves to be beaten that weekend the last time they were down in the state of Florida to play against the Seminoles. Finally, October the 13th, one game to look at. That's North Carolina at Miami, the probation bowl, if you will. Those two teams get it on the road. I think that's the only game really in Atlantic Coast Conference play that I'm overly intrigued to look at. I'm obviously going to follow Florida State and Virginia Tech and those games, but if you want a marquee game that you might want to tune into, that could be an interesting one. There's a lot of talent on both of those teams, and Miami's talent has underperformed. North Carolina's talent has probably performed up to its level, what they can get on the field when they're not getting involved, much like Miami to some degree, in off-the-field issues and conduct and academic issues. I'm just thankful. In the grand scheme, the only thing Clemson fans really had to get into and worry about this offseason was the Sammy Watkins deal. I know you throw the Mike Bellamy thing out there if you want to, the academic issues with Mike Bellamy not being able to cut it at the collegiate level. But still, for me, all we had to really worry about was Sammy Watkins and a couple of injuries here and there. That's a good thing. I mean, keeping your nose clean in the offseason is tough nowadays, and this Clemson team has done a pretty good job of it in recent years. October the 20th, I'm going to tune in and watch Miami at Florida State, the old rivalry. You've got to watch it, right? Wide right, all that good stuff, the past history. That's one. Virginia Tech at Clemson, big time. That's huge. I know it's a cross-conference game, but it's a game that Clemson can ill afford to give back, plus an opportunity to beat Virginia Tech 3 straight times. It reminds me, it's reminiscent of back in 2003 when Clemson beat Florida State, because that was the moment in my mind and in the mind of a lot of you where the series between Clemson and Florida State shifted. Clemson finally got over the hump against what had become a real tough program for them to handle. I mean, Florida State came into the Atlantic Coast Conference. Clemson pushed them for everything in the first meeting, and after that, it was a domination. A domination by the Florida State Seminoles. There was a 57-0 loss mixed in there, folks. And some of you had to go through the pain of co-workers who are Florida State Seminole fans bringing in a Heinz 57 bottle and a zero bar. 57-0. 57-0, I'll be honest with you. it may outdo 63-17. I know the Clemson fans who really want to rub it in and rub the salt in the wounds of the Gamecock fans won't want to admit that. But getting a goose egg and giving up 57 points? The only thing, 63-17 and maybe that 45-0 game Clemson put on South Carolina down, I believe it was 1989. That's unbelievable, really. 57. Clemson, 57 people to zip against Florida State. Glad to see that series has shifted a little bit. It was about time. October the 27th, the only game really worth watching is probably the Clemson game against Wake Forest. Everything else, you got a bunch of open dates. I think Miami's off, Virginia's off, Virginia Tech is off. There's not a whole lot else going on in the conference. Maybe you want to catch NC State on the road at North Carolina. November 3rd, Virginia Tech and Miami, about the most appealing game in the league. The 10th, you've got Notre Dame and Boston College. You got to watch Notre Dame, I think. You've got Florida State at Virginia Tech, a big game and a big benefit for Clemson that Florida State also has to play Virginia Tech. That could be the game later on if you don't go undefeated. If you lose to Florida State, that might be the game that puts you over the top. Maybe Florida State drops that game against NC State, and then Virginia Tech gives you the route into the Atlantic Coast Conference Championship game, which is going to be played on December 1st this year, again back at the Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. What an unbelievable venue that was this past season, and for the way Clemson played in that one to close out the year. Lots of good memories for a ton of Clemson faithful after that one. Finally, November the 17th, you've got NC State at Clemson. You've got Duke against Notre Dame, and that seems to be about the extent of it. The final week of the season, though, you get Clemson, South Carolina. You get Florida, Florida State. I'll give you Georgia, Georgia Tech. And I'll give you one game that could be interesting for the state of Virginia, and that is Virginia and Virginia Tech. It's not a guaranteed thing that Coach Mike London is going to get that Virginia ball club to a bowl game this season, but they have been a much improved team, and last year and this year they've got a very favorable schedule leading up to that Virginia Tech game. Now, you consider who all they play. There is the possibility that they lose early to Georgia Tech on the road, and then they may not lose another game until the final two ball games of the season against North Carolina and against Virginia Tech on the road. They have a legitimate chance to pull that feat off and be in the mix in the Atlantic Coast Conference by the end of the season. Now, we gave you our Atlantic Coast Conference previews just a couple of weeks ago on TigerNet Talk, our sister program. And we're going to continue to talk about Clemson and Auburn a little bit. If you're saying, well, where's the Clemson and Auburn chatter? Why are we not getting Clemson and Auburn chatter? That's coming up a little bit here on this program. We're really going to focus on it, though, on Wednesday's edition of TigerNet Talk. I think you got to tune into that one. Predictions. We're going to have our Xbox 360 simulation, all of that for you. But there's some games to watch this season in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Not where we hoped it would be. I think when Virginia Tech and Miami came in the league. But there's at least one game a week you should tune into, and some weeks you get 3 or 4 good ones in this league. And this league has to do something this season to impress people. I'm not sure if it will. But they need to. We'll be back with more Clemson Hotline right here on the John C. Calhoun Radio Network.
Everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981.
Are you a landowner who owns more than 10 acres that's interested in selling timber or pulpwood off your property? Cross Creek Timber is a full-service timber procurement company that buys standing saw timber and pulpwood. They're staffed with professional licensed foresters and fully insured with both workers' comp and general liability insurance. Let Cross Creek Timber develop the appropriate harvesting plan for your property and answer any questions regarding forest management. Call today, 864-517-3620. That's 864-517-3620 for your free woodland evaluation, or visit www.crosscreektimber.com.
We scoop the boot, dutycalls.com. When nobody else will do it, dutycalls.com. To make that dog poop go away, call or click for a free quote today.
When nature calls, we answer. To get a free quote for dog poop removal, go to dutycalls.com now.
DOODYCALLS. Dutycalls.com.
In the Midlands area, dial 1-800-DUTY-CALLS. They're number 1 and number 2.
Hate the thought of shopping? All that hassle and can't find what you're looking for anyway? We understand. Retail stores make it difficult. Instead, try www.edistooutdoors.com. Edisto Outdoors features performance apparel and gear engineered for performance, comfort, and style. EdistoOutdoors.com. You'll enjoy the shopping and you'll enjoy the products. Great products from people who care.
Hey, sports fans, listen up. If you're a fan of the Gamecocks, the Citadel Bulldogs, or you just simply get chills from the Tigers running down the hill, then CRM Sports has a weekly show just for you. Even if Cocky and the Tiger make your blood boil, then just tune in for a good laugh. Each week, Gamecock fans hear the CRM Sports show Carolina Crowline broadcasting live from downtown Columbia. And Clemson fans enjoy the Clemson Hotline broadcasting live just miles away from their beloved Death Valley. It's fun, independent, objective, and informative talk about your favorite college team. To listen to the various CRM Sports Collegiate Sports Talk podcasts, visit iTunes and search for CRM Sports, and the action-packed shows will be just a free click away. CRM Sports, check them out on iTunes and get all the inside info on your favorite Southern team. CRM Sports, we know Southern sports.
Appreciate all you Clemson Tiger fans for sticking it out with us. We are going to try to move the show up to 9 p.m. each week. It's a little bit of a better start time. I think, I'm not saying all you are going to bed that early, 10 o'clock, but 10 o'clock was a little bit late. We're going to try and move it up a little bit. We are, because of you guys, to be honest with you, we're the number 1 rated broadcaster on a little website called Vocal, VOKLE.com. And I appreciate everything that the folks over at Vocal have done for us. They have been fantastic. And now I'm not even making that up. I mean, they from the get-go, they hit us up. They said, hey, you got a lot of viewers. What do you think about becoming a staff pick? Sure, I'll take a shot. I'm figuring to fall in somewhere at like number 69 overall. I think it was, there were like 68 people at the time. First week, number 6. What? Number 6? Next week, 5. And I'm not up there with, people you don't know. Bomani Jones of ESPN is on this list. Bomani, coincidentally, one of the guys I'm really trying to get back involved with us here on the program. We've had him on some of the other programs I've done in the past, but I want to get him back on the program as well. But, a little bit of a surprise as as I'm passing him, because I know he's with ESPN, 4, 3, 2. I kind of fall back to 3, and I'm a little disappointed thinking I'm never going to get up to number 1. And a couple of weeks later, boom, we're at number 1. This week on TigerNet Talk, we're going to have David Hood, senior writer for the Clemson Tigers, for TigerNet.com, and also he covers the Clemson Tigers for TigerNet.com, and also Cody Webb. And Cody Webb does one of our great buffer songs that we bring you back from break, turning 4 years into 5. A lot of people ask about that one this past week as we were kind of in the midst of in between the two programs. Somebody said, hey, what's that great music? And I got multiple people writing to me about it, 4 years into 5. The other one is Great to Be a Clemson Tiger by Jesse Rice. So those are the two guys' songs that we currently use here on the program. I hope you enjoy them. I certainly do. I think they're very well done. Those songs are professionally put together, and I have not seen those two guys in concert, but I know Cody Webb is going to be playing in Atlanta this coming weekend. So when we talk to him, we'll definitely find out all the details for you so you can go out and support a fellow Clemson Tiger. Obviously, he's doing a fantastic job, and everybody really loves that song. But 4 years into 5, or in my case, 4 years into 14 semesters, that would be the song I would have had to write about. And my dad definitely can relate to that, but pretty cool opportunity to be able to spend some time with those guys. Now, finally, before we move on, let me tell you another way you can listen to the program. You can hear shows from Clemson Sports Talk while you're on the go with the Stitcher Smart Radio application. Stitcher is a free news, talk, and mobile application for your smartphone. And when you download Stitcher to hear shows from Clemson Sports Talk, guess what? You can win some money. Downloading's quick and easy. Just find Stitcher in the App Store. It's free. Takes just a few seconds. During your registration code, though, put in this promo code, Clemson Podcasts. Put that S on the end of podcast to get automatically entered to win $100. The latest episodes of the program will be waiting for you in your favorites, and you'll get access to lots of other great shows, too. It's Stitcher Smart Radio. Don't forget the promo code Clemson Podcasts when you register. You get one chance to win, but a lifetime of amazing shows to listen to when you want and wherever you want. Now, for those of you that only follow Clemson Hotline, because I'm certain there are a few of you out there who say, you know what, I can't give all my time to two programs. I can only give a little time to one. I want to tell you our predicted order of finish for the Atlantic Coast Conference this season. In the Coastal Division, we picked Duke to finish last, Virginia next to last, Miami, then Georgia Tech, North Carolina, and then to win the Coastal Division, I predicted Virginia Tech to play in Charlotte. In the Atlantic Division, I have Boston College, Maryland, and I may flip-flop that. I don't know am I allowed to flip-flop that after C.J. Brown went down. I feel like I should be allowed to flip-flop that one. I had Maryland there because I thought C.J. Brown would be playing. But I'll stick with my guns. Boston College at the bottom, Maryland, Wake Forest, North Carolina State, Florida State, and then Clemson. Listen, I'll say it like I did when I made those picks. I understand how good Florida State is defensively. I get that completely. I understand that Clemson has question marks early in the season on the offensive line, and Florida State possibly has the best defensive front in the country. But for me, if Florida State wants to win the Atlantic Coast Conference, they are going to have to beat Clemson. I truly believe that. Clemson will put up numbers. I think that if Taj Boyd can have the least amount of protection possible, Clemson can still put up numbers. I mean, as long as Taj Boyd is not running for his life, Clemson's going to score points. You think of the move to the pistol to keep the defense a little bit more off balance, make them not maybe make some of those running plays not as obvious on the direction. You think of all the work Clemson has put in this offseason, possibly the top 1 to 6 best wide receiving core in the country. I don't care about Southern Cal. Throw anybody else out there you want. 1 to 6 best in the country. The defensive line for Clemson has played pretty well coming up to the lead end of the season. I think if they can get E.J. Manuel rattled, you've got an opportunity for an improved linebacking core and an experienced linebacking core in a secondary that's played well in the past. I think you have an opportunity to make some plays. Clemson could get an opportunity at Florida State to shock the Seminoles once again. And I, for one, would not be surprised. But that's the way I've got it going down. I've got Clemson, Virginia Tech rematch, Charlotte, December 1st. I think that's a pretty fair look at the league. Now, there's a lot of people out there saying Florida State, national championship sleeper team, dark horse national championship team. This Clemson ball club has a favorable schedule. This Clemson ball club has a real chance. When you look at the road games, Boston College, Wake Forest, Duke, that Florida State game is really the only tough road game. And unfortunately for Clemson fans, you kind of have to swallow this bitter pill with me for a moment. Outside of Florida State, South Carolina may be the toughest game you'll play this year. Because I don't know about you, I'm not buying the Logan Thomas hype either. I mean, Clemson shut down Virginia Tech last season. Clemson's defense absolutely shut down Virginia Tech. I'm not buying into that hype either. Florida State and South Carolina are arguably the two toughest matchups you have, and it might not be close. Virginia Tech fans won't like it, but too bad. Clemson manhandled Virginia Tech last season, and that's unbelievable to think when you look at Bud Foster and those defenses Virginia Tech's put out there. Virginia Tech made boneheaded special teams play. Beamer ball was not in full effect at all. And speaking of Beamer ball, a couple of rule changes you might want to know about. Kickoffs have been moved from the 30 to the 35 this year, which poses the question, will teams try to kick the ball high enough to maybe entice someone to return it? Now, the key thing here is, can you land it inside the end zone or outside? If you land it outside, the guy's got to bring it out. You got a chance to pin him in deep. You put it inside, he can take a knee, and the ball goes out to the 25-yard line. That's a strategy change. I don't know what you do there. Do you just believe that taking a third of the game out of the question isn't going to change it at all? I personally know it's going to change it completely. And you have a guy like Andre Ellington, and maybe even once he comes back, a guy like Sammy Watkins who can really get the job done in the return game, and that takes them away perhaps. And then you got to move the ball 75 yards to get a touchdown. I don't like the change. I know it's about player safety, but still, I mean, the game it's a violent sport. We know it's a violent sport. They still run with the Bulls in Spain. We know people get killed doing that. That's still going on. I mean, changing the kickoffs in football, I don't know. And the percentages change significantly at the pro level. I expect the same thing to happen at the collegiate level as well. Unfortunately, for Clemson Tiger fans out there, it is going to be a change that you're going to have to get used to. I don't think it's going away. But as you can imagine, it'll be something that will definitely affect a ball game at some point this season. Stay with us. We'll be back after this break. Clemson Hotline rolling along right here on TigerNet.com, and look for us on ClemsonSportsTalk.com as we rebrand that page and get it back up full very soon. We'll be back. Stay with us.
I love the ninth inning. I love game 7. Bring on the competition. Cause in my heart, can't nobody do it better. Can't slow me down, won't stop me, never.
Welcome back in, Clemson Tiger fans. Clemson Hotline right here. Rolling along 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We kick it off for you. You can check out our start times on vocal.com. Always there, VOKLE.com. Look for L Swan Media. That's another way you can catch the program. If you missed it, if you just catch the back half of it on the radio, whatever, go to youtube.com/ELSWANN media, all one word, all together, .com. We've got a couple of playlists set up. We're going to separate out Clemson Hotline and TigerNet Talk. We're going to roll them out to you each week. And, of course, don't forget, 36 episodes of this program, and then we take off the summer. 48 weeks of TigerNet goodness, TigerNet Talk goodness. We keep it rolling without you, whether it's raining or snowing. We're always putting the programs out, and we appreciate everybody for tuning in and taking a part of the program with us, because it means a lot to us when you take the time out of your day to call 803-450-0086. That number's 24 hours a day, people. 24 hours a day. You're walking out of the stadium. Clemson's been upset by whoever, Ball State. You're angry about it. What do? Call us. Let us hear your frustration. We'll play it. We'll play it on the air. We'll let people know how you feel about that. And don't miss me. I'm actually going to be on a program called News, Notes, and Rumors with Bill Smith this week. He wants to talk about the Atlantic Coast Conference. You can go to, I believe, mooheadradio.com. That's mooheadradio.com. We'll put that out on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter. We're at Clemson Sports. That's right. We got it at Clemson Sports. How it wasn't taken, I have no idea. But call us. We want to know your thoughts on this Clemson Tiger team this upcoming season. Now then, we've got a couple of listeners with us here live in the chat room, but we've also got an email from Dr. Henry. Dr. Henry says, L. Swan, or should I say whippersnapper. Now, when I hear the word whippersnapper, I almost want to do it in like the old, oh, you whippersnappers, kind of the old man voice, but I won't go there. I'm not going to go there. L. Swan, or should I say whippersnapper? You really need to stop commenting so negative on Tigers that existed back in the Stone Age, before the national championship. I was there in 1975, starting the year with a 4-game losing streak. They finished 2-9, and then in 1976, when Clemson goes 3-6-2, with another 4-game losing streak and 1 tie. I remember Charlie Pell addressing students in Brackett Hall when he became the coach. I remember a time when we all would have said, Danny who? I graduated in 1978, and I left the area in 1980, so I missed being number 1. My biggest wins at Clemson were against South Carolina and Maryland. All that said, I just want to let you know, myself and others like me are not dead. I'm still years from retirement. So please do not consider, before 1981, the era of the caveman who were Clemson fans. We are the fans who laid the foundation of what became the Clemson football you know today. We are the ones that grew up core fans of the winning tradition, from students to the guys helping pay the bills now. Now respect your elders, you whippersnapper, and keep up the good work on your podcast. Yours in fun, Henry. Henry up in Cary, North Carolina. Appreciate you writing us, Henry. And, you know, I wrote Henry back, and those spam filters kill you. And look, if you email me, I will write you back. But every once in a while, spam filters block me, but Henry did get his hands on it. And, you know, I don't remember commenting on pre-1981 Clemson fans being the Stone Age. What I did say was, though, that I didn't think there were a whole lot of you alive that really remember the last time Clemson had a 4-game losing streak to the South Carolina Gamecocks. I mean, you got to go way back. You got to go way back. I know it's not that far. 1969, I guess. Somewhere in there. No, 50s. Was it the 4-game streak was in the 50s, right? Anybody would have been in college then would have been born in the 30s. There's still plenty of you around. There are still plenty of you around. I get that. But a 4-game losing streak to South Carolina in my lifetime was something I never thought I'd see. Never thought that I would see that day. And I think a lot of you didn't think so either. But it has become a harsh reality. As I said earlier, they're probably the second best team we play this year, if not the toughest team. They may be the number 1 team that your Clemson Tigers play this season. Dr. Henry, I appreciate you writing in. I know, and everything was in jest. I get it completely. And I think you're right. Maybe I am a little bit harsh on those of you who may not be able to partake in the podcast, but you have proven me wrong, sir. You have proven me to be, just as you say, a whippersnapper who does not understand that there are those of you out there, like my father, 78 years old. Let me tell you about my dad. iPhone, iPad, he can do it all. So I got to stop being so harsh on some of you guys and maybe having a little fun with you all. Anyway, stay with us. We're going to head out to this is our final break. Cody Webb, 4 years into 5. Cody's going to be a guest on the program Wednesday. Tune in for that. Appreciate everybody being with us and look forward to talking with him. You guys know about TDs, don't you? Check it out.
I used to sneak downtown with my fake ID and watch Doug McCormick rock TDs on a Friday night.
Want to hear the sound of hassle-free traveling?
All aboard!
Amtrak takes the hassle out of traveling to over 500 destinations. You can stretch out in a spacious seat, relax in a sleeping car, and enjoy a hot meal in the dining car. And for those who want to kick back and take in the scenery, go right ahead. For everything you get on Amtrak, the one thing you won't get is this. So whether you're going to a family reunion or an away game, make it a whole lot nicer on Amtrak. Book your trip today at Amtrak.com or call 1-800-USA-RAIL.
All aboard!
Blake Austin of South Carolina Farm Bureau is an insurance agent you can count on to meet all your needs. Home, auto, health, life, you name it, Blake's got you covered, and he can save you on your yearly rates. Call him now for a free quote, 803-259-5008. That's 803-259-5008. Or just go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com and click on the Farm Bureau logo to be connected to Blake. Do like I do and work with the best agent around, and you can tweet that.
Have you ever wondered how you could make a difference in someone's life? What if you could help hundreds or even thousands of children? You might think it impossible, but it's within your reach. Right now, today, students in the U.S. rank 32nd in world math skills. It's time for our children to catch up. And you can help. Become an owner of one of the world's fastest growing franchises, Mathnasium. Mathnasium is the leading math-only learning center in the U.S. Its only purpose is to make our kids better at math. Imagine helping hundreds, even thousands of students in your community improve in school and raise their self-esteem, all while doing something you truly love. Call us at 800-663-9549 to learn more about Mathnasium's exciting franchise opportunities. That's 800-663-9549 to learn how you can make a difference. Doing something you truly love. That's 800-663-9549. 800-663-9549.
Rolling along here on the Clemson Hotline, 803-450-0086 is the way you can take part in the program. And I will tell you that I've had a little bit of trouble with some IP address issues here, and I hope that those will go away. And I rarely do this on this program. I do this on some of my other shows, but I'm going to actually check the phone lines real quick just to make sure that they are up, and they are, which is a good thing. That means you can call us. We're ready to go. If you're watching the show live on Vocal, guess what? You can participate in the chat room. You can ask us a question, whatever you want to do. Now, we are definitely going to get into the mix of this Auburn-Clemson matchup. It's such a big game for you Tiger fans, and I know you're all excited about it. And imagine the drive over to Atlanta, the tough taste that you've had in your mouth coming out of the Georgia Dome the past few times you've been over there. Plus, I think you got to go back all the way to 2003 against Tennessee. That ball game was the last time Clemson won a game in Atlanta, and that includes every other season when you go over there to face the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. So you can only imagine what a win in this one would mean for Clemson. And after getting punched in your face, and that's what exactly, swallowing your own teeth as you walked out of there in 2008 is something that still stings Clemson fans, as Alabama just pummeled the Clemson Tigers. The only bright spot in that entire game may have been C.J. Spiller's kickoff return late to open the second half. Outside of that, it was lights out. Alabama headed in the right direction. Tommy Bowden headed out the door not too long after that. But the man who arrived, Dabo Swinney, for everything that he has been, for all the criticism that he has taken from Clemson fans, from opponents, all of that being said, this guy has gone out in a couple of seasons. You know, the offensive staff was struggling 2 years ago. What did he do? He went out and hired what could be the best hire ever that Clemson's ever made for a coordinator when he goes out and gets Chad Morris. The next season, the defense doesn't shine. You get 70 points put on you in the Orange Bowl game against West Virginia. What does he do? He goes out and gets Brent Venables from Oklahoma. Now, you can believe that Venables only came to Clemson because it's a stepping stone for him, and perhaps this is a way to get some exposure in the East Coast to get out of the shadow of Bob Stoops. Maybe it was because Stoops' brother was coming back into the fold there. Whatever the circumstances around it, the deal is, I think this guy's an upgrade. And in 2 seasons, Dabo Swinney, though the coaching staff salaries have risen through the roof, $1.3 million for Morris, $800,000 for a guy like Brent Venables. What has he done? He's brought in the pieces and the coaching staff to make this work. And Dabo Swinney can sell popsicles to Eskimos. He is a guy who has completely transformed and transfixed, I think, a lot of the ways these young men look at Clemson. Clemson is now considered by almost every major athlete, every 5-star, 4-star guy in the country at least gives Clemson a look now. A lot of that has to do with Dabo Swinney. A lot of that has to do with the job that Sammy Watkins did last season. A lot of that has to do now with the fact that Robert Kimdichie, the number 1 player in the country, consensus number 1, coming to Clemson. And I think the fact that you got a guy like Brent Venables on your staff who has coached Butkus award-winning linebackers at Oklahoma, has a pedigree of getting his team into the national championship game, the national championship mix, and finally Chad Morris, an innovative coach who tries to find ways to take advantage of offenses, who tries to really go with a little bit of deception, but also with matchups. And you see now Clemson in the mix with a ton of great tight ends. Why? Because of the way Clemson played last season with Dwayne Allen. The fact that I think a guy like Brandon Ford's going to have a big season for Clemson this year. I think this Clemson team is geared up for another unbelievable offensive performance. If you said to me right now, can Clemson match the offensive output that they had last season? That's going to be tough to do, but I think it can be done because if you look at some of those later games, NC State, South Carolina, the numbers were way down. If Clemson can get those same type numbers the entire year that they put up in some of the other ball games last season, if that's the kind of trend that Clemson carries this year, then absolutely I think Clemson has a real opportunity to have a very special season, maybe one that was even better than last year's season. That could mean culminating with a win in the Orange Bowl. That could mean with having one of those years where the things fall into place. And when we look back to 1982, we talked about this on TigerNet Talk. What do you know? Things fell into place for Clemson. Every week they got the loss they really needed. Now, Wednesday, tune in, live, TigerNet Talk, front page of TigerNet.com. We want you to be with us. David Hood, senior writer for the Clemson for TigerNet. And I don't know why I keep wanting to say he's the senior writer for Clemson Tigers. He is not. He is the senior writer for TigerNet.com, and he does a fantastic job of it. And also Cody Webb, whose song 4 Years in the Five you just heard, is going to join us. And we're going to unveil our new part of the program, or our website, the Paul Contest. Pick a week. You'll find out who's involved. I cannot wait for you to find out who we have on board with that. Till then, I'm Lawton Swan signing off. And as always, y'all take care now. And go Tigers! And I will stick around for just a minute and take this question from JB Tiger 1980. And JB, let me tell you, Wednesday, 9 o'clock, we're trying to kick it off. And I've updated the times here on Vocal, so I hope that you all will join us then. And JB, I hope you'll submit more questions as well. Will we regain some respect if we beat Auburn? I think the answer to that is absolutely. When you look at the SEC West, and you look at the domination in college football in recent years, and I know this year it's probably going to come down to LSU and Alabama once again, barring some unforeseen circumstances. But this is an Auburn team that is nowhere near. They pale in comparison to what Clemson went up against on the road, on the plains 2 years ago. That team was loaded with top-tier talent. Now, Auburn's had some unbelievable recruiting classes. Don't get me wrong. But they don't have anybody that can electrify and take over a game the way Cam Newton did. I mean, Cam Newton was a rare beast. You're just not going to see many guys like that. I mean, I can probably count, on my hands the number of guys who have dominated the sport the way that Cam Newton did. And just right here briefly, and I would say Cam Newton, Reggie Bush looked like a video game when he was playing. Mike Vick led Virginia Tech to the national championship, and he was playing with like his Pop Warner team around him. And he was the only legitimate, unbelievable player. I mean, I can't even fathom what that would have been like. Woody Dantzler leading Clemson to the national championship. And I don't want to downplay all the guys that surrounded Woody Dantzler, but man for man, outside of a couple of guys, you line up this new breed of Clemson player versus those old guys, and the skill positions are just. I mean, I'm not going to get into the guys who couldn't cut it on this team, the guys who would be behind Adam Humphries, who were starters when I was in school. You can go look at the rosters if you want to pick who they are. But beating Auburn will get you some respect, and it will get you, they got them ranked in the top 25. I believe they came in number 24 in one poll. I can't remember where they are in the other poll. I'd have to look, but they still they're just 2 years removed from a national championship. This is one of the biggest opening weekend ball games. That opportunity for Clemson is huge, and I absolutely think that you can regain some respect that you lost from the way you were, I mean, it's tough to say you were manhandled because in 2008, Alabama, I think, manhandled Clemson. They manhandled us. But West Virginia, in some ways, they out-Clemsoned Clemson. And what I mean by that is they took advantage of the matchups. Clemson did not adjust, and they just kept, it reminded me of if you've ever played a video game and there was a play that was, for whatever reason, unstoppable, and you exploited it. And West Virginia just kept on exploiting us over and over. Same play. You watch the highlights of that game. Touchdown. I mean, it's the same stuff over and over. Clemson just never recovered. But a win there, you're going to have probably a couple of teams ahead of you lose. I mean, you're 14 in the polls. After week 1, you could be at 12 or 11. Maybe if the right teams lose, maybe you jump up a little higher than that. I'd have to look at every single first week matchup, but maybe Clemson can vault into the top 10 before going to play another top 10 team in Florida State. I mean, that's the money play, Nathan. You're right, man. I apologize to you guys who are coming in right now. Start time, I think we're really going to try and move it up, and this is my fault and why I'm still recording this for the YouTube version. Let me tell the YouTube version goodbye. YouTube version, we'll see y'all at 9 o'clock on Wednesday, okay? Bye.